So why do certain secular films made by unbelieving filmmakers feel Christian? On this channel, I regularly break down the Christian meaning, influence, and message of secular films, and sometimes that's more clearly there and sometimes it's more hidden. Every Christian knows that we can recognize God working in real life, but we can also recognize it in art that isn't really made with that intent. On that, Breck McCracken writes, by common grace in a Western culture irrevocably formed by Christianity, in spite of its present secularity, artists of no faith can still create good, true, and beautiful things. The Christian values the West was founded on are seemingly inescapable. It's in our justice system, human rights, science, politics, in the way we make art. The weight of the presence of God isn't something that you can really ignore. You're either for God or against God. So should we as Christians categorize movies in a way that they're either for or against God as well? I've oftentimes been criticized on here on YouTube for over-interpreting movies and TV shows, trying to find a Christian meaning, even though it supposedly wasn't there. I always base my interpretations on what's in the actual movie I'm talking about or on research about the filmmaker's intent, but I clearly have overinterpreted movies many times, and I just don't think I could not be doing that at one point or another. You see, there'll always be a difference between the filmmaker's intent and my interpretation, because the intention of a filmmaker can only be that which he claims it to be. Take a filmmaker like Martin Scorsese, for example. He's a devout Roman Catholic, but most of his filmography doesn't really go hand in hand with a Christian life, a Christian worldview. His movies depict all kinds of debauchery, violence, drug use, even more than some of the secular filmmakers' filmographies out there. But then there are his later movies like Silence, The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon, that clearly go more hand in hand with the Christian faith. There's also an earlier film called Bringing Out the Dead, who has a strong Christian influence, and that movie was actually written by Paul Schrader, who also wrote Taxi Driver. Now, Paul Schrader is a devout Protestant Christian. Also, when it comes to him, only parts of his filmography go hand in hand with the Christian worldview. For example, he made like First Reformed, which is his Christian film, but the film, yes, I mean, it's a masterful movie. I recently recommended it on here. Is it a full-on Christian movie? I'm not sure. It uses the theme of Christianity to explore more political, psychological, artistic ideas, but it's not really totally God-centered. You see, the question about if something is for or against God becomes really layered when we talk about creativity, because parts of a movie can be centered at God and other parts at the same time can go against that. And I think the reason for that, in comparison to a painting, for example, painting is pretty straightforward, just like a song is or a piece of music, but a movie is made by hundreds of thousands of people. And even when one person wrote the screenplay and directed the movie, there's still the hands and voices of so many people in the final product. You see, if I were to clearly categorize some movies as clearly God-centered and clearly against God, I would kind of miss the truth. We as Christians, when we navigate watching content in movies, it's much more difficult, and we have to pay closer attention to what we watch and be much more literate and knowing about what we expose ourselves to.